Welcome to the BAM Bibliophile. My name's Bailey, and here's a list of my least favorite book from each month of 2023. I'm not someone who likes to spread negativity. I want to uplift creators and authors because they put so much work into their craft, and I respect that. I just decided to make this video because I'm hoping these books find the right readers, and to be honest, saying these were my least favorite books each month isn't me labeling them as my least favorites of the year. A lot of these I read and enjoyed, but they happen to not be the cream of the crop. Okay. January was Over My Dead Body. This YA graphic novel follows Abby, a young witch attending a magical institute. As everyone's preparing for Samhain, a girl named Noreen disappears, and while the Coven says they're looking for her, little effort seems put forth. Determined to solve this alarming disappearance, our protagonist discovers there might be a connection between Noreen vanishing and another suspicious event at the institute years ago. This book is advertised for fans of the chilling adventures of Sabrina, which I can agree with, and it's probably the most atmospheric and visually stunning book I've read my whole life. Everything was a feast for my eyes. The colors, lighting, and character designs are nothing short of stunning. If I could, I'd literally frame the book's panels and stare at them for hours. This is art, people! I was so enamored by Sweeney Boo's work that I bought Over My Dead Body for my own collection after borrowing this copy from the library. I love a strong sense of season, especially if it's winter or fall, and the autumnal imagery here is chef's kiss. The problem was I wasn't fully invested in the plot. I don't know if it was the pacing or the pull of the mystery, but something wasn't grabbing my attention like I would have liked. I also remember being frustrated with how Abby and her concerns were regularly discredited. She was told, "She's just stressed." Why not believe someone when they're crying for help? At the end of the day, I was here for the vibes, and the vibes alone. But what great vibes they were. February's most disappointing read was Fullmetal Alchemist Under the Faraway Sky. I was such a huge fan of this anime when I was in junior high and high school. I would regularly rewatch the episodes and fantasize for hours about living in this world. So when my library got this book, I was ecstatic to return to this reality. Fullmetal Alchemist takes place in a world where you can transmute or change material into something of equivalent value. Edward and Alphonse dabbled in forbidden alchemy as children, and a failed human transmutation ritual left them with damaged bodies. In an attempt to return to normal, the two set out in search for the fabled Philosopher's Stone, but the journey is a tumultuous one. This light novel has two stories in it, one about Edward falling ill and suddenly reuniting with a childhood friend, and the other about Mustang, Hughes, and Armstrong finding a village of children. Really, I just want to talk about the first one here, and it boils down to this. Edward was sick as a dog and laid up in bed, which was one of my FMA fantasies as a teen girl. So seeing as this was one of my wacky dreams come true, you'd think I would have been a little more giddy. I know, teen girls are weird. There's something about immobilizing the male species that just gets to us. Perhaps I have grown up since then. Probably not. But I think it's something more like it didn't live up to my own fanfiction created right up here. It's a dark, exploratory place. And I'm not afraid to say it. Moving on now, I've revealed too much. My least favorite book from March was the graphic novel My Life Among Humans. A nameless alien data compiler is sent to Earth and tasked with studying humans from afar. When the alien's accidentally spotted, it learns it can take over human minds, which minimizes the damage done. But as more people need mind control to keep the alien's identity under wraps, its ethics are called into question. This book brought up interesting ideas related to autonomy, loneliness, and forced separation as a tool for compliance, and while it was thought-provoking and quick to read, this was another case of the plot falling flat for me. I could be wrong, but I think this was predominantly from the alien's perspective, or at the very least focused on his experiences. While I would have liked to see inside people's minds once they got taken over by the alien, what were their experiences, what did their consciousness do while their body was being controlled? I just have questions, you know? April's Deadly Little Secret was one of the few books this entire year I sincerely struggled with. Bad boy Ben is rumored to have killed his ex-girlfriend, leading to everyone at school ostracizing him, except for the love interest Camellia, who's drawn to Ben and his touch. Once she begins receiving eerie phone calls and threatening notes, Ben insists she's in danger, but most people think Ben is the one behind it all. What's a girl to do? I thought I read somewhere that supposedly reads like a CW show, and I love CW shows. Vampire Diaries, Supernatural, Smallville, I ate that up like it's the last tub of ice cream on earth. But this, ooh, I was led astray. While reading Deadly Little Secret, I felt nothing for the main character and her 4 potential love interests, and I felt nothing for Ben, who I was supposed to be swooning over like a girl having a heat stroke. On the bright side, I appreciated the short chapters, but I felt like there was no real substance. I remember reading 20 pages and then not being able to recap what I just read. That was how checked out my brain was, which could just honestly be a me problem. But I had to ask myself, where was the suspense, the angst, the passion? 'Twas lost! That's where. I just solved one of life's great mysteries. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's rare I DNF a series. I don't think it's ever happened, but I read enough reviews for the other 3 books and I'm satisfied knowing who she ends up with, so I'm going to move on with my life like the stalker in this book should have done. Bye-bye! May's a tough month because I only read like 2 books, one of which was my favorite book of the year, Ninth House, so I'm very sorry to the I still really like it, but a choice had to be made. The is about 2 friends who drunkenly decide to answer a sex ad in the middle of the night, and it just gets weirder from there. The boys are immediately greeted by the woman's husband, who asks to watch. Since he's too frail to give his bestie the pleasure she deserves, he wants to make sure she has a good time. Reader discretion is advised. If you like men mutilating their no-no square, don't miss out on this. I will say though that by the end I just felt sad. I couldn't tell if it was from the events of the book or the fast food I just ate working on my hormones. Hard to say. But the end result was the same. June goes to Entangled with You, the Garden of 100 Grasses. It's a boys' love anthology whose main story is about Marcel. When his sister gets injured while working in the forest, a horned man appears, offering to help heal her if Marcel promises to return to him. Marcel believes the beast-like figure intends to take his life as payment, but the reality is far different from what he could have ever imagined. This is about 2 unlikely friends who grew to appreciate one another's companionship. I love me a gentle giant like Gazelle looking to find his place in this world. Is it Gazelle or Giselle? I don't know. I apologize. In my opinion, the story was about seeing people for their inner essence, which can be a stark contrast to the rushed conclusions we make based on physical appearances. Notably, the 2's shared moments meandered and were quiet in nature, nothing felt rushed, and the characters had a wholesome nature to them. However, for something advertised as being romantic, the undertones were barely even there in my opinion. I wanted a stronger plot with greater direction. Deeper insight into the couple's dynamics and a more detailed progression regarding what they meant to each other could have really pushed the story from meh territory into something worthy of a recommendation. There's nothing wrong with a quiet romance, but this one was severely lacking something for me. I think that if the anthology had taken Marcel and Giselle's story and elongated it into several volumes where the slow burn had time to develop like fine wine, then this could have been so much sweeter. I wanted to cherish this couple, not pine after the idea of them. If you're wondering about my thoughts on the rest of the stories, I don't think I was intellectually smart enough to understand what was going on. The art was lovely though. My least favorite book in July was Wicked Intentions. This nonfiction true crime novel is about Sheila LaBar, who'd invite men to live with her on her secluded New Hampshire farm, where she could play out her dark, twisted games of abuse, torture, and revenge. Many of her lovers were never seen again. This was my first true crime book, and I was really excited. I have to say the writing was compulsively readable and not dry like I was expecting, but it was hard to follow the non-linear timeline. My biggest takeaway though is that no matter how fascinated I am by stories like these, a part of me gets sick reading them. Hashtag wimpy. Blatant depictions of abuse and human depravity had me feeling some type of way, so I took breaks every now and again because it was just too dark for me. I didn't want to look away, but I mentally couldn't take it. It was quite the conundrum, believe me. The Island is my easy answer for August. Would you accept an invitation to explore one of the most exclusive amusement parks before its grand opening? 6 influencers are offered a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to enjoy a secluded island with bold Gothic architecture, posh lodgings, and thrilling rides where the shadows have infinite secrets to hide. The only catch is they have to survive a little stabby action, but you can bet that wasn't included in the brochure. The Island is a YA thriller with a surprisingly slow first 200 pages, and unfortunately I didn't mesh with the writing style or the characters. But most of all, I couldn't get over how the characters were behaving, running willy-nilly all over the island despite the obvious dangers. I get that you would panic in a dire situation like this, and therefore most likely won't be thinking rationally. But this felt like a lot, and that ending. Everything felt null and void. I can't. I appreciate a show-stopping conclusion, but not one where my investment in the book felt pointless. For September, I have Infidel, but I still recommend this one. The horror graphic novel is about an American Muslim woman and her multiracial neighbors who move into a building haunted by entities that feed off xenophobia. The visuals are stunning, especially when you bear witness to the entities haunting the building. They're grotesque and burned into my brain thanks to the jarring proportions and contortion utilized by the illustrator. And the plot is full of tragedy with layered views of prejudice among people you'd call friends, family, and neighbors. But the fact remains that it's becoming harder and harder to frighten me. The more I expose myself to horror, the more desensitized I get to it, and I wanted to be frightened by the pictures in this. Alas, that wasn't the case, but even though this graphic novel didn't make me afraid to turn the lights off, I'd still describe it as extremely haunting. I'm just not realizing these are like predominantly graphic novels. You know what? October is no exception. It's Gung-Ho Volume 1. This post-apocalyptic graphic novel follows 2 orphan brothers who love to make trouble. After being kicked out of the city for poor behavior, they've been shipped off to Fort Apache, their last chance to fit into a colony before denying them the safety of towns and fortified villages. Fort Apache has its demons though, and it's beginning to seem like the outside world is just as dangerous as the walled one they find themselves in. Gung-Ho's artwork is stunning. The colors, the light sources, once again, chef's kiss. Plot-wise, I felt uncomfortable. While interesting ideas were presented, my focus was stolen by the fact that the vast majority of Gung-Ho's characters were, at least for me, unlikable, including our main characters, the brothers. They toy with girls' emotions and treat them like objects. I don't want it to come across like I'm trying to tear this book apart and say that all characters need to be conscious, charismatic people. You know what? There are insensitive, inconsiderate in this world, and damn it, they deserve representation too. But please, give me someone to root for. I personally can't spend an entire book reading about intentionally insufferable people who possess so little regard for others. Long Live the Pumpkin Queen is my pick for November. This is a YA continuation of The Nightmare Before Christmas, which takes place shortly after Jack and Sally get married. I buddy read this with my younger sister Fallon, and we both agreed that it's a great sequel to the original storyline. I was originally hesitant to go into this because what I love so much about the movie can be boiled down to the visuals, the setting, the atmosphere. And I couldn't wrap my head around how that would translate into a chapter book, but Earnshaw delivered. She brought this world to life with only her words, and she managed to do it so richly while expanding the universe. We get glimpses of other holiday towns and begin to understand who Sally is on her own terms. I really don't have anything bad to say about this except that I had a traumatizing life experience happen while I was reading the last bit of it. Making it a chore to pick up afterward, a single event can spoil an experience because the two are intricately connected in my mind. I should probably go to therapy for it, but why go to therapy when I can spend that money on more books? Talk about girl math. Finally, December's was Unmemory, an illustrated short chapter book about a university student attempting to track down a Christmas film that traumatized her as a child. This seems like an impossible task, and maybe, just maybe, the film is best left in obscurity. If you want to collect Christmas horror, this might be nice to add to your collection, and I'm so glad I bought it. I have no regrets, but there's something about it that felt just a little lacking. Part of me wishes it was more thrilling or suspenseful, but another part recognizes that it did a relatively good job of unsettling me. My biggest gripe is a personal one, and that's I don't like ambiguity, which this book has some of. I want answers to appease my lizard brain and allow me to fall asleep at night. I don't want to be kept awake with questions not even God has the answers to. Unmemory did not reveal all of its secrets. If anything, it created more of them. Lucky me. What were some of your least favorite books from 2023? Tell me in the comments below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.